A really common question I get that I actually usually don't answer. No one cares about that. This is actually something I haven't told anyone yet, so you're the first to hear it. I've often been known as the girl who can only eat 9 foods, or now the girl who can eat 14 foods. And while that is very true, there's also a lot you don't know about me and a lot of questions I commonly get that I don't answer. So today, while I cook my breakfast, the same exact breakfast I eat every single day and arguably my favorite meal of the day, I'll be answering all those questions, even the juicy ones. My breakfast is kind of 3 parts, starting off with some chia pudding. So I mix some chia seeds with water and I'm just gonna give it a few more minutes to sit while I answer the first couple of questions. So I get asked a lot how I found out about having all these allergies and these restrictions with food and if I always had them, and the answer is no. I did have some issues with foods when I was a baby, but for the most part, I could eat pretty much any food my entire life. And it wasn't until I was about 12 when I started to get so many symptoms and I realized quickly that it was from whatever foods I was eating. And then slowly over the years, I had to cut out different foods. And that's another really common question I get that I actually usually don't answer, which is what my reactions are like and how are they different for different foods or different preparations of food. All of these issues that I have with my health come from having a condition called Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, or MCAS. So you have these cells called mast cells and they're part of your immune system and they are in charge of releasing mediators in response to different things that come in contact with your body, and then that's the process of having an allergic reaction. So if you think about the cell, it does this thing called degranulation. It's a process when it releases those mediators, and those are things like histamine. There are a lot of other mediators, but I think histamine's the one that most people know about. And histamine and all those other mediators that get released cause different symptoms that can affect pretty much every system of the body, and then that's what causes an allergic reaction. So in people with mast cell conditions and mast cell disorders like MCAS, the mast cells release those mediators in response to things that would typically be seen as harmless, and they release them inappropriately in the way of releasing them in response to too many things, but also releasing too much of those mediators. So it causes people to have essentially allergic reactions to almost anything. And for me, most of the things that I react to are foods. But with that being said, my reactions are so different for every single food, which is why I don't typically talk about it. For example, if I eat an apple, or the last time, it can also change over time. So the last time I ate an apple, I ended up having really bad nausea and headaches, for a few hours and sort of the normal things and getting some hives and itching. But then during the night, I had really bad vertigo and I couldn't even walk in a straight line and I felt really dizzy for a few days after. So the reactions can also last a really long time. And my reactions are also different depending on how the food's prepared. For example, when food is cooked and then sits out or dehydrated or preserved in any kind of way, it can increase the amount of histamines in it. So last time I was traveling, I cooked some turkey to bring with me and I ended up having a reaction to it that lasted almost 2 weeks because it had just been sitting cooked in the fridge. And that's turkey I eat every single day and have no problem with. Okay, while I answer the next question, I'm going to prepare the toppings for my chia pudding. First, I'm going to chop some dates. So what is your favorite dish to make with the food you can eat? One thing that I do really like making, which is really fun to make as well, is these zucchini boats with turkey. I'll put a picture if I have one of when I've made it before, but essentially air fry some zucchini and I sort of carve out the middle so it's like a boat, and then I cook some turkey and I put it inside and I add some lime and salt on top. What foods do you miss most, and do you ever crave foods that you can't have? On a daily basis, I don't really miss other foods just because I'm so used to eating what I eat, but I think the time that I miss foods the most is when other people are eating it and I'm watching them, and that's also the time when I crave other foods, especially if I'm hungry. I think common ones that I crave are things like donuts, French fries, potato chips, things that I don't even have something comparable to in my diet, like a lot of sweet treats or pastries, or I think potatoes and fries and chips and stuff like that is because I don't really have anything crunchy and crispy and savory in my diet. So I definitely miss those. And if other people are eating desserts or stuff that smells really good, I'll just smell it and that makes me feel pretty good. I feel like I'm in on it. I feel like I'm part of it. And I've kind of learned from people that typically things smell better than they taste. So I feel like I'm the winner in that situation. Now I'm going to add some freeze-dried raspberries. I don't like them whole, I like crunching them up. So this is a new pack, so I'm just gonna crush it all. Can MCAS go away or is it permanent? There's no cure for MCAS, and the treatments focus on reducing the amount of symptoms that you have on a daily basis. So for me, a lot of the medications that I'm on and the treatments I've done have helped significantly. So most of my days, I don't have those baseline symptoms that I used to have, but I do still get flare-ups. And I also have medications that I can use when I do have flare-ups. I see it as getting to a point where most of my days, I'm not worried about what I'm going to react to, or that I might have a flare-up and suddenly, feel terrible. And that sort of relates to the next question. Does having all these restrictions with food limit my energy and my health outside of having MCAS? I think there's a lot of potential, especially the fact that I don't eat a lot of different foods and different food groups, for missing different nutrients and, important aspects of diet. But I get regular blood testing with my dietitian and gastroenterologist. And when I do need something, I'll take a supplement for it. But honestly, I haven't really needed anything. And, there always could be things happening that we can't really test for or aren't aware of. But I do feel pretty good as it is right now. I exercise regularly, and that's something I've been able to do because of the medications I'm on. And I just try and live my life the best I can and try not to worry too much about that stuff on a daily basis, because there isn't much I can do. Now, time to make my turkey. While the pan heats up, I'll answer some of the more fun questions I got. What's your music taste? I feel like I've never been able to answer this question because I don't really have a set music taste. I'd say the music I like is typically pop, but my all-time favorite artist and the only person that I could confidently be like, I like all of their songs, is James Arthur. In my Spotify Wrapped every year, he's at least 2 of the top 5. Here's my Spotify Wrapped top 5 from this past year. But I also really like Post Malone. Yeah, I don't really have specific artists I like, or I'll go through phases of liking a bunch of songs from one artist. But James Arthur's just always my favorite. I get this question a lot. Actually, I don't even get the question. I just get people saying that they think I'm Australian or South African or Irish. Irish is the weirdest one. Like, have you ever heard an Irish person speak? Because they don't sound like me. But I'm originally from London. I was born there. And then I moved to Los Angeles with my whole family when I was 7 years old. And I've lived here ever since. And I also chose to stay here for college because I love the weather, love the warmth. Do you play video games? No, but I used to be a Minecraft girly through and through. I loved building the houses. I loved building really cool things on Minecraft. And I also used to do the mod thing or whatever it's called, where you can like put code in and make cool stuff. So I used to do that. I've also always been a Lego girl, still am a Lego girl. And this summer when I was in Denmark, I even went to Billund, which is where the original Legoland is, which was so fun. Time to put the turkey in. I buy all my turkey frozen because I found that using frozen meats is just best for me. I don't react to it. And I have a place online that I found turkey that doesn't have, ground turkey that doesn't have any preservatives in it, which I've never been able to find at a grocery store. Typically when it's not frozen, they use preservatives to make it keep fresh longer. So this is my favorite turkey. I absolutely love it. Ooh, this is a good question. What was your favorite food? Chocolate. I used to always say chocolate. And whenever I would see new dietitians or nutritionists or doctors, which I saw a lot of them, when we were trying to figure this whole thing out, this was when I was like 12 to 16. I used to always say my favorite food is chocolate. And, they always felt bad when they had to be like, stop eating this food or try not to eat this. And, they understood that as a teenager, that was really hard for me, whether that was just like personally, but also socially. So I would always keep it light and positive by being like, well, as long as you don't take away chocolate, I'm fine, I'll do anything. But then one day, there was a day when I had to stop eating chocolate because I just started reacting to it. So that I think was one of the hardest things for me to stop eating when I reacted to it. But in the end, that was always my motivation to stop eating foods that I was reacting to, because I knew that I would feel so much better, and just that feeling better was all the motivation I ever needed. And what inspired you to start social media? I started social media kind of for fun, as a joke. I created a video in class for an assignment we had to do showing how I make my dinner, and it was just going to be silent in the background with some music, and my teacher was like, well, why don't you talk about the condition you have and why you have to eat like this over the background? And I said, no one cares about that. And he said, no, they would actually be really interesting. So I did, and when the whole class watched it, everyone was so interested, and it made me realize that people are interested and care and want to know more. And so I ended up posting something very similar on TikTok, and it kind of went viral, and it really started from there. And I realized how many other people have MCAS, or are even just in a similar situation, whether they have an allergy or any type of dietary restriction, and just can relate to and resonate with my experiences that I've had. And it not only made me feel less alone, but I know that I have helped other people feel less alone. And that's really my goal, is to create that community and be able to share these little parts of my life and share, what my experience has been like, and hopefully also make it fun and entertaining for other people, because I also just really like making content. What's a goal you're trying to accomplish? This is actually something I haven't told anyone yet, so you're the first to hear it. But I love creating content on social media. But with a lot of short form content, I feel like I don't get to share my thoughts as much and really share my experience. It's more these quick, snappy things. And I've always liked writing and felt like I have a really good narrative voice. So I've been just writing more about my experiences with my health and throughout my life, and getting a diagnosis and what that's been like and what it's all meant to me. And some of these things that I think a lot about internally and mentally, but don't really share with other people for whatever reason, and haven't really shared online, just because it is so nuanced and much longer than a 2-minute video. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but my goal is just to write, and that's my goal for this year. And maybe it'll turn into something, maybe like a book. I don't know, let me know down below in the comments if you think that would be cool, if you'd be interested in reading something like that. Okay, and the last question while this is almost done cooking: are you willing to try more foods, and how will you decide what foods you'll try next? This is a complicated question, because I am willing and open to trying more foods. I think that's what's best for my body, but I also know that I'm not going to rush things, and in the past that has been the downfall of this process. I know it's not the answer people want to hear when asking how do you decide what foods to try next, but I've honestly just listened to my intuition. There's a bit of thought that goes into it with my doctors and my dietitians, and making sure that the foods I'm looking to try are foods that would be beneficial to expand my diet into those areas, but also foods that there aren't a huge risk of reaction. I've never had anaphylaxis, which I'm really grateful for, but some of my reactions are more severe, and sometimes with exposure, each time I'm exposed to something, my reaction gets worse. So I don't want to risk something where there is a risk of a severe reaction. So we go for things that I haven't reacted much to in the past. But I also go off my intuition. I know that if I'm not ready to try something, or if I'm anxious about it, I'm going to react, whether that's just from the anxiety alone, or that is just me actually reacting. So I know there's no chance of giving it a real shot if I'm not mentally ready. So I've gone on my own terms, on my own clock, on my own time. And, say I'm at the grocery store with the latest food. I tried watermelon. I was at the grocery store. I saw watermelon once. It sort of planted this idea, the seed in my head of maybe that's the next food I can try. And I went home, and I noticed that I was thinking about it a lot over the next couple of weeks. And that's when I decided to try it. And that way I was in a really calm, relaxed state, and I was ready to try. I think the turkey is ready. Whoops, I may have burned some bits to the pan. I was too busy talking to you. Gotta add the lime. Lots more lime. And some more lime. Now some pink Himalayan salt. Lots of it because I have pots. Need all the salt I can get. And now some Maldon salt. Yummy.